Today we'll talk about a topic that is not only controversial but also very interesting: alien abduction stories and implants. Extraterrestrial implants or alien implants, a term commonly used in the field of ufology, are allegedly small physical objects with microchip like properties that are supposedly placed in someone's body shortly after being abducted by extraterrestrials. The main investigations on the subject have been carried out by other communities, such as the American podiatrist Roger Leir, creator of the Foundation for Interactive Research in Space Technology, who affirms after analyzing samples in laboratories such as Los Alamos National Laboratories or New Mexico Tech, that he has recovered around a dozen of these type of implants in patient operations. He assures after analyzing them that these implants have unusual characteristics, including the emission of radio signals and the separate movement under the skin of the subjects. Stories about alleged alien abductions have been a staple of modern culture for decades, but science generally ignores them until the 1990s. That's when prominent Harvard psychiatrist Dr. John Mack began his own investigation, one that ended in a fight for academic freedom. Harvard psychiatrist Dr. John Mack, a brilliant and successful academic who had won a Pulitzer Prize, launched his own investigation, met and interviewed hundreds of alleged experimenters, and concluded that their stories were true. Dr. Mack concluded that the experimenters did not have a mental illness and were not making it up. Dr. Mack said, "I'm a psychiatrist, so my specialty is the human psyche and the human mind. So I can tell you certain things. These people are not crazy." Blumenthal said, retelling Dr. Mack's defense of his research, "They are not mentally ill because I have interviewed a lot of them. He said that's what I do for a living, so I know this. These people are not making it up. They are not making it up. It's not a hoax." Some of the most famous cases of alien abductions are the ones we are going to go to look after it today. The most famous alien abduction case is undoubtedly that of Travis Walton, a logger who claimed to have been abducted by an alien UFO while working with a logging crew in Seagraves National Park, near Snowflake, Arizona. He disappeared on the night of November 5th, 1975, and was found 5 days and 6 hours later, beside a road near Eber-Overgaard, Arizona. According to Walton's account of what happened, after being knocked to the ground, he awoke in a hospital-like robe, all metal. He was laying on his back and slowly regaining consciousness, feeling a lot of pain in his head and chest area. He was watched by strange creatures with bald heads, no more than 5 feet long. Travel describes these creatures as very white in appearance, with no hair, no eyelashes or eyebrows, and very large heads and eyes, with small noses, mouths and ears. He became hysterical, hit them, pushing them away from him, and jumped off the table, but they started to come towards him, so he grabbed an object from the ones there and threatened them. The beings turned around and left the room. As Travis was afraid that the being would return, he left the room and entered another room, where there was a kind of projection like a star map and a chair in front of him. As he was trying to find a way out, a human-like man taller than him, bigger, more muscular, with brown hair and hazel eyes and wearing a helmet entered the room. Travis tried to talk to this man, but he would not accept it, and left him outside the ship he was on, which was apparently inside a large room or building, or probably a larger ship. This one let him into another room, where other humans like the brown-haired one put a plastic mask over his face and knocked him unconscious. The next thing he remembers is lying on the highway, watching the flying saucers take off upward rapidly. He was only able to remember a few hours of the time he disappeared, and was very surprised when he was told that 5 days had passed. Betty and Barney Hill were an American married couple who rose to fame after claiming to have been abducted by alleged alien beings between September 19th and 20, 1961. The story told by the couple, commonly referred to as the Hill abduction and occasionally the Zeta Reticuli incident, was the first widely publicized case of an alleged extraterrestrial abduction. The Hills lived in the town of Portsmouth in the US state of New Hampshire. Barney was employed at the post office, while Betty was a social worker. Active members of the Unitarian congregation, the Hills were also members of the Anti-Discrimination Association, as well as community leaders, and Barney had a seat on the US Commission on Civil Rights. They were an interracial couple, something quite unusual in the United States at the time. Barney was of Ethiopian ancestry, while Betty was Caucasian. in the evening of September 19, 1961, the Hills were driving back to Portsmouth from a vacation in the interior of New York State, as well as in the Canadian provinces of Ontario and Quebec. Since it was late at night and because the peak summer tourist season was over, there were few cars on the road as they traveled south of the small town of Grovetown. They reportedly observed a bright spot of light in the sky. Initially, they thought they were observing a shooting star, only later realizing it was falling upward, before stopping near the then crescent moon. As Barney continued driving along US Route 3, Betty thought she was observing an artificial satellite and asked Barney to stop the car for a closer look, as well as to walk her little dog Daisy. Concerned about the possible presence of bears in the area, Barney pulled out the gun he had hidden in the trunk of the vehicle. The giant discoidal craft quickly descended towards the Hills vehicle, causing Barney to stop directly in the middle of the roadway. The craft descended about 25 to 30 meters above the car and filled the entire field of view on the windshield. Barney turned away from the vehicle using the binoculars. He claimed to have seen between 8 and 11 humanoid figures looking out of the windows of the craft, seeming to stare at him curiously or inquisitively. Suddenly, all but one moved toward what appeared to be an instrument panel, as if they were about to perform an important task. The remaining figure continued to stare at Barney and communicated a telepathic message to the latter: "Stay where you are and keep watching." At that instant, white lights began to appear from what appeared to be bat-wing-like flaps on the side of the craft, and a long structure descended from the underside of the craft. The silent craft approached at a distance that Barney estimated to be between about 15 to 25 meters overhead, and about 15 to 30 meters away from him. Suddenly, and overcome with fear, Barney quickly removed the binoculars from his sight and went back towards the vehicle, shouting, "We are going to be caught." They took off at high speed, while Barney told Betty to look skyward for the object position. Almost immediately, a series of mechanical sounds vibrated the vehicle. The Hills would later say that they experienced symptoms of an altered state of consciousness that has left their minds numb, and that they also felt a tingling sensation through their bodies. As they passed through the town of Plymouth, another series of beep-type sounds seemed to come from the back of the car. After arriving home, near dawn, the Hills claimed that they had some strange sensations that they could not quite explain. Days later in their dreams, and thanks to a hypnosis session, Betty would recall that they had been examined by these humanoids. Although the hypnosis sessions in both gave similar accounts, the psychologists who attended them concluded that they were just fantasies inspired by Betty's nightmares. Thanks for watching this video and find me every day on my reels.